Big got this shit knocking on.
If you love wisdom, put your mind up to the ceiling. Don't let it stay in the gutter. Don't let your heart get all cluttered. No, I did not stutter. Listen to all that I've muttered. Your life will only go well if you win wisdom or lovers.
If you're in love with wisdom, come inside.
Come inside. Come inside.
The truth will surely rescue you and I.
You and I. You and I.
If you're in love with wisdom, come inside.
Come inside. Come inside.
The truth will surely rescue you and I.
Hey, good afternoon. This is JC Johnson, and you're listening to For the Love of Wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets. And on today's show, we're going to be discussing the wisdom of equity. All right, so you might be thinking of home loans and stuff like that, but there's actually a lot more to equity than that. So we're going to get into that in a minute. You are listening to North Coast Underground, where the underground starts with you. And again, this is For the Love of Wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets. We'll be right back after this.
If you're in love with wisdom, come inside.
Come inside.
Hey, what's going on, Wisdom family? Each week on For the Love of Wisdom, we promote a new and free audiobook that we believe you will benefit from and become wiser by listening to. On today's show, we're talking about the wisdom of equity. And so, the recommended book for this week is Can American Capitalism Survive? By Stephen Pearlstein. This book explains how our economic system gradually has undermined our sense of community by glorifying greed rather than fairness. To download this free book today, just visit audibletrial.com/lovewisdom. audibletrial.com/lovewisdom.
All right, welcome back. This is your host, JC Johnson, and you're listening to For the Love of Wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets. And today I actually have a special guest with me. Goes by the name of Bobby. What's going on, Bobby?
Hey, what's going on, JC?
Hey, man, just enjoying this day, man. You know, summer's almost over. We only have 2 weeks now?
Yeah, honestly.
Or actually like a week, before fall officially hits.
Yeah, dude, I'm kind of excited for the fall, believe it or not.
You like the fall weather?
Yeah, I do. Honestly, I like the summer weather. It's just that I can't stand the 90-degree heat like 24/7, dude. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It just drives me nuts.
Well, the good thing is we're, transitioning. The thing I like about the fall, I guess, is it's not too hot, it's not too cold. As it gets towards
weather.
Yeah, but as it gets towards the end of the fall into the winter, that's probably the part I'm not looking forward to as much, but hey, it is what it is. We have to embrace all seasons, right? And that's a part of life. We have different seasons. We can't always have just one season or two seasons that we like. And, I think that applies to a lot of different things.
And a lot of people say that the seasons bring out different emotions in people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Makes you feel a certain way. But, I mean, I just hate having snow for half the year, too. So that's me on the other end. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, the snow, that's the difficult part. So, depending on where you live, you might live in a place where you kind of have the same season all year, with maybe a couple variations, but somewhere like, Florida, California, they don't have a whole lot of, they don't really have snow unless, depending on what part.
Yeah, my sister lives in California, and she says that they don't even have rain there. Like, it's
wow.
bad. Like,
yeah, that's not good.
Rain is pretty rare over there, and honestly, I'm loving the rain over here, dude. It's making me feel good.
Okay.
Coffee
cool.
Inside, Netflix and chill.
Right. So pretty much, today we're discussing the wisdom of equity. And if it's your first time listening to the show, each week we pick a different topic to discuss. And right now, as a part of the series that we're currently in, all of the show titles end with the same suffix. And by suffix, I'm talking about just like the last few letters of the word. So right now, each of the show titles are ending with the suffix ity. And basically, just a little bit of information for you here if you're interested, and if not, I'm going to tell you anyway. The suffix ity basically it just means the condition or quality of being whatever that might be. So the condition or quality of being equal in this case, or equitable. If we were talking about diversity, it would be the condition or quality of being diverse. So that's pretty much all that means. That's why certain words end with that ity. That's all it's pretty much saying. So last week we discussed the wisdom of generosity, right? And so each week, the reason why we're discussing these kind of topics is because this show is all about wisdom. It's all about how we can, grow in our understanding of anything that's important in this life. And so the show title, For the Love of Wisdom, it comes from two Greek words. The first one, philo, which means love, just like Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania, it's called the city of brotherly love. The reason why is because it comes from that same Greek word. So philo means love. The second part of that word, sophos or sophia in Greek, it means wisdom. So literally when you put the two together, philosophy, philo, sophia, it means love of wisdom. And so that's what this show is. It's a show of philosophy, really, but it's also just a show about growing in everyday life decisions, making the best decisions possible so that we don't end up on the wrong path, because it is very easy in the world that we live in to get caught up in stuff that really pushes us farther away from who we're supposed to be in life. Like, so Bobby, what do you think about that?
I believe that whatever you put into it, that's what you get out of it, honestly. I mean, it depends on everybody's situations, but, you can take one thing and it can just put you on the wrong, track, and you end up getting stuck in like a hole that you just can't get out of. And, like a sleeping schedule, for example. My sleeping schedule is messed up, but like once you start doing that, and you don't get enough sleep, and then you just binge for like 18 hours, and then you sleep for like 2 or 3 hours, or it really like takes a toll on your brain. So
what's the importance of getting enough sleep? What does it help you to do?
Honestly, dude, I've noticed that when I do get more sleep, like I do wake up in a better mood. Like, it's not a myth, you know what I'm saying? Yeah,
so when I talk about waking up on the wrong side of the bed, it's probably someone who didn't get enough sleep.
Right. And, your eating habits contribute to that too. And, it's all about, health, wealth, love, and happiness,
Mm-hmm.
But your body is your automobile, you got to take care of it.
Hey, that's awesome right there. That's something to keep in mind. You said that your body or your mind.
You got one automobile. So.
Right. Yeah. So all of that is your automobile. That's what takes you from point A to point B, right? And this is all that we have. So you don't have anyone else's body. You don't have anyone else's brain. All you have is the one that God gave to you, and it's for whatever reason. So you have to take care of it. And yeah, that's definitely something that I try to be mindful of. There's a lot of times when I don't get enough sleep, and I definitely feel the effects of it. There are seasons sometimes where you just have to grind, more than other seasons of life, and you get as much sleep as you can. But in the long run, it's as far as a lifestyle, it's best to have a habit of getting enough sleep.
Another thing is, thinking too much can really screw you up. If you overthink things, dude, you're just setting yourself up for a trap.
That's true.
You're setting yourself up for a trap, and the trap is going to be a hard hole to climb back out of, because, one thing just piles on top of another, and then, you're stuck, and it's like your brain's so racked, everything's all over the place, so, then you got to go back from step one, take baby steps to get to where you need to be.
Right. And, last week we actually we talked about generosity. And one of the things that was mentioned was that in being generous, which is a good thing, some people actually overdo it. So you're talking about overthinking. Some people overextend themselves physically, to the point where they put themselves in a bad situation. Now, there's nothing wrong with helping other people, doing good to other people, but sometimes people will help other people and neglect themselves. And if you're neglecting yourself, basically if you're neglecting sleep because you're helping people, or you're neglecting your finances because you're trying to get someone else out of a bad financial situation, ultimately it's going to make you resentful in the long run, because you're going to feel like, man, I did all this for this person and now I'm struggling. Now I have this problem.
Right. And that's the thing. You don't want to go broke trying to help somebody, and then when you're broke, they can't help you.
And exactly. And then if you're both broke, then who's going to help anyone, right?
And I'm not saying like, okay, I don't want to say that I'm like a selfish person or anything like that, because I'm not. But there's a difference between like being selfish and then putting your priorities first. And,
right.
It's not a bad thing to worry about you. You gotta put yourself number one, because in the end, you're gonna be the only one there.
That's true.
You're gonna be the only one there, and that's it.
So balance is really key. But of course, as mentioned, generosity is important. One quote from last week that I think really stood out is one by Khalil Gibran, and he said, "Generosity is not giving me that which I need more than you do, but it is giving me that which you need more than I do." And it's definitely something to think about. But basically, again, it's not saying that you give to the point where you're neglecting yourself, but it's saying that it's not a true sacrifice if it's not something that's actually beneficial or meaningful to you. You gotta meet it in the middle.
Right.
It's not generous if I'm saying you can have my table scraps.
Right.
You gotta buy them an actual meal. But more on that after this. This is North Coast Underground, where the underground starts with you.
Hey everybody, you're listening to For the Love of Wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets.
With your host, Jason Johnson.
Right, what's going on, and welcome back. You are listening to For the Love of Wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets. And of course, we're on North Coast Underground, where the underground starts with you. And I'm here today with special guest Bobby. What's going on, Bobby?
What's up, man?
Hey, so right now we are just talking about the wisdom of equity, right? So before the break, we went over a little bit of what we were talking about last week. We were talking about generosity, and if you missed those episodes, because there was 2 episodes about generosity last week, don't worry about it. You can always catch up on them on iTunes, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, pretty much anywhere where you can listen to podcasts. It'll be available on there. Google Play Music, or even if you have an Amazon Alexa device, you can always just say, Alexa, play For the Love of Wisdom, and it'll bring the show up that way. So there's plenty of ways to listen to the show, so don't feel bad if you tune in late or you miss it. But of course, we're live every Thursday from 4 to 6 right here on North Coast Underground. All right, so today we are discussing the wisdom of equity, and if you want to join the conversation, I'll be going live on Instagram for a little bit later, so you can always look for that. My Instagram handle is One Plan Media, so you can just type that in on Instagram, or the @ One Plan Media, all together as one word. And also you can hit me up on Twitter, and that handle is @LoveWisePodcast. Right, and so just make sure you use the hashtag For the Love of Wisdom, and we can talk on there if you want to contribute to the conversation. All right, so I usually like to look at a verse from the Bible that kind of relates to what we're talking about, and one that sticks out to me is Luke 6:31, and it says, "Do for others what you want them to do for you." And I think that is pretty good as it relates to equity. So again, I mentioned earlier that sometimes when we think of equity, we think of it as far as like homes, how much equity you have in your home, basically how much value that it has. And that is one definition of equity, right? So according to Merriam-Webster, basically equity in that sense is the money value of a property or of an interest in a property in excess of claims or liens against it, basically. So that is something that you have. So for example, if your house is worth, let's just say your house is worth $100,000, but you still owe $60,000 on it, then basically if you were to sell your house, you would get a profit of about 40,000. Or if you needed to, which is not a good idea, wouldn't recommend it, but what people do sometimes is they borrow against their house. Basically, they tap into the equity, which is something that, you know, they were telling a lot of people to do several years ago before the housing crash and all that. But they're saying, hey, you got equity in your house. It's just like a bank. All you have to do is just pull from that. And it messed a lot of people up. But
yeah, when you go try to sell your house, all that money's just gone, dude.
Exactly. Now, some people, you know, were able to do it successfully, but they were the exception, not the rule. So I'm not promoting, you know, that kind of thing at all. But equity is a good thing, whether it's in your home or just in what the sense that we're going to be talking about today. So let's look a little bit into what this actually means. Just breaking the word down as far back as we can go back to the 14th century, the way that this word was originally used. Just looking at the etymology dictionary, it means the quality of being equal or fair. It means impartiality in dealing with others, basically. So it's about fairness, equality, uniformity, symmetry, fairness, equal rights, kindness, moderation. Basically, it just means that, just being even, being just, being equal. That's the simplest way to break down what equity is all about. The American Heritage Dictionary also has this to say about it. It says it's the state or quality of being just and fair. And even in law, this is an interesting one. When it comes to law, it's justice achieved not simply according to the strict letter of the law, but in accordance with principles of substantial justice and the unique facts of the case. So basically, it's not just about always going by what is written per se, but it's, you know, sometimes there are gray areas because not everything is black and white. So equity is about doing not just what is written on paper, but also doing what is right. Because, for example, you know, in the United States, there were things that were considered legal at one point in time, which later were found to not be right, which were found to, you know, be unconstitutional, such as, you know, slavery in the United States. From, you know, African slaves brought over to the United States during the transatlantic slave trade, or even during World War II, where you had Japanese Americans that were put in internment camps. And, you know, just because they were Japanese, and most of these people weren't even born in Japan. They were actually born in the United States. But just because of their nationality, they were put in these camps, you know. And so just because something is technically okay, right, it doesn't mean that it should happen. So that's what this is talking about, is saying that if something like that comes up and you notice that even though it might slide according to the law and technicalities, if it's not right, it should definitely be addressed and changed. So the word equity, I think it holds a lot of weight. It's not something that people typically use in everyday speech. It's not a really common word unless, like I said, you're in real estate.
You're talking money.
Right. But just as a just to also look at some different words that relate to equity, just so that we have a, you know, more full understanding of it. Basically, equity is some words that are synonymous with that are fairness, fair-mindedness, honesty, integrity, justice, non-partisanship, reasonableness, rectitude, even-handedness, fair play. Some words that are antonyms of that, or the opposite, are dishonesty, bias, inequity, partiality, unfairness, unjustness, right? So that's what we don't want to do, right? We don't want to do those things. We want to be equitable. We want to, you know, demonstrate equity in all that we do. So how do we do that exactly? You know, what is equity, right? So Bobby, just as far as what we've been talking about so far, you know, what comes to mind to you when you're thinking about, you know, being equitable towards other people, or people being equitable towards you?
Well, when you put it like that, I mean, I think I get like the like the thought just comes into my head, like, you know, people, you know, they get along, and, you know, there's like no hatred and anything, nobody, like, no.
So it's like unity.
Yeah,
kind of
just
thing.
unity with everybody together. I think, you know, black, white, Hispanic, you know, Muslim, or whatever, you know. Everybody comes together and everybody lives a peaceful life, but the problem is, you know, that's wishful thinking, because people have evil thoughts, you know. People are messed up in the head, dude. You know,
I mean, yeah, if it were like that, I mean, that would be the perfect situation. But the problem is we live in an imperfect world. Right. So really, you know, that goes into, again, what this show is about. There's no way that we can change the whole world with a, you know, radio broadcast or podcast. But one thing that we can do is at least bring awareness to certain things.
Right, get it out there.
Yeah, make people think, you know, just to think about how can we treat one another better as human beings, right? Because we only have one life to do it, so we should do it the best way that we possibly can. But more on that after this. You're listening to North Coast Underground, where the underground starts with you. This is For the Love of Wisdom. We'll be right back.
Hey, what's up? It's your girl Queen Z from the Queen Z Show, and you are listening to For the Love of Wisdom.
All right, welcome back. This is JC Johnson. You're listening to For the Love of Wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets. All right, and today we are discussing the wisdom of equity. All right, so we were joined earlier by Bobby, and we were, you know, just kind of getting into a little bit about what this word equity means and what it doesn't mean. Right, we looked at some of the synonyms, some of the antonyms, and, you know, really just, you know, trying to define it according to the dictionary. So if you missed that, you can always listen back to, you know, past episodes on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, anywhere where podcasts are located, basically, and you'll be able to, you know, hear anything that you missed. So again, this is live every Thursday from 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. So definitely, you're always welcome to come and hang out. All right, so let's continue getting into this topic of equity, right? Because we're talking about what it means to be equitable, right? So we're not necessarily talking about, you know, money or, you know, having equity in your house or anything like that. But this is more so about how we treat people. And just looking at this this word equity, you know, equity has a lot to do with treating people fairly and, you know, doing what is right. Treating people as you want to be treated really is the key to equity. And that's why we looked at a verse from the Bible initially when we started, from Luke 6:31, that says, do for others what you want them to do for you, right? You know, when Jesus said that, he was basically talking about equity, you know. So we have to ask ourselves, you know, is equity something that comes second nature to us? You know, is it something that has been instilled in us by our parents, or is it something that comes to us because of life circumstances, right? Or maybe it's something that just happens haphazardly. Maybe it's something that we don't have to be taught, or something that we're influenced to do by life circumstances. You know, depending on who you are and what you've been through, right, it's going to determine how you treat other people. Now, part of life is really to figure out how we can grow as people, how we can be better people overall. And the best way to be able to gauge how good of a person you are really is in how you treat other people. Not just other people, but even how you treat yourself, right? Those are two very important things. So let's take a look at equity as it relates to what is in the headlines right now. And there is a lot. There's really always a lot in the headlines as it relates to this, because we live in a world where things are not always equitable. Things are not always equal. They're not always fair, right? So if you're familiar with the news, lately there's been some backlash because of this whole thing with Nike and Colin Kaepernick, and just the controversy surrounding that. If you're not familiar with that, definitely do a Google search about it, find out more information. But essentially, he took a knee during the national anthem one day, and he was the first player to really do something like this. And typically football players will stand up and put their hand on their heart and do it that way. But he was protesting against police brutality and inequality, really, in the United States. And that was him taking a stand, or taking a knee, I should say. So that it sparked a lot of controversy, and Nike actually had him. He's actually one of their endorsements. He has an endorsement deal now with Nike, and there's a lot of people who are not happy about that. So basically, there was a mayor in New Orleans who responded to Colin Kaepernick having this endorsement with Nike. And one thing that he did is he tried to influence people in New Orleans to make sure that they wouldn't buy any Nike products, like for any teams, anything like that. So here's what he has to say. He said, effective immediately, all purchases made by any booster club operating at any Kenner recreation facility for wearing apparel, shoes, athletic equipment, and or any athletic product must be approved by the Director of Parks and Recreation or his designee. Under no circumstances, so here's what he said. Check this out. He said, under no circumstances will any Nike product or any products with the Nike logo be purchased to use or delivery at any City of Kenner recreation facility. Right? So he said it can't be purchased for use or delivery at any City of Kenner recreation facility. And him doing this was his way of trying to boycott Nike. But it wasn't him personally. He's trying to get the entire city to do that. Right? So it says here that Scott Sternberg, a New Orleans-based business and media attorney, said on Twitter that he does not believe Zahn can, quote-unquote, instruct private groups on where to buy uniforms. So he said that it would be especially tricky if the ban was due to a viewpoint that a company expresses, rather than any danger that the company's products pose to residents. Now, I can understand if he was saying, this is an issue of national security. Don't wear Nike because there's something in the seams in the shirts that will, slice your arms or something, or, there's some sort of anthrax powder in it that's going to cause you to die or whatever. If that were the case, then yeah, it would be right for him to say, don't wear Nike. But the fact that he's saying don't wear Nike because they are endorsing a player who took a stand for something, it really is rubbing people the wrong way, right? And again, if you want to read more on this article, this article is called "Mayor Bans Nike from Children's Sports and Playgrounds, Citing Fairness to All," right? And this was an article that was written by Sarah Necumkin, and you can find it on yahoo.com in the lifestyle section. Now, on Monday, because of all of the backlash that the mayor was receiving from saying this, it says that he released a statement in response saying that he wanted to protect taxpayer dollars from being used in a, quote, political campaign. Right, so he said that he applauds Nike's message of inclusion, and encouragement for everyone to be their best and dream big, but he also wants to draw the line on letting companies profit from taxpayers by basically using that platform to speak on their political beliefs. Now, regardless of, whether Nike is using this as a platform to speak of their political or ethical beliefs, or if this is all just a publicity stunt just used to raise the amount of money that Nike makes, which I'm sure they will make a lot more money because of this. But whatever the case is, right, they should have freedom of speech. And whenever you are coming against someone, in this case Colin Kaepernick, because people are not even just against him now, they're against Nike, and Nike is they're not the ones who took this stand. Colin Kaepernick is, but they're just endorsing him. But pretty much whenever something like that happens, somebody's doing the right thing, backlash oftentimes does come for it. And that's kind of just something that lets you know that you're doing the right thing. So, shout out to him. Hopefully he'll get through this, but more on that after this. You're listening to North Coast Underground, where the underground starts with you.
This is your girl, Juicy Jazzo, and I wanted to let you know I'm all about wisdom. Knowledge is power, power is money, and money makes the world go round. And you're listening to For the Love of Wisdom right now, bleeding out your speakers.
All right, welcome back. You're listening to For the Love of Wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets, and this is your host, JC Johnson. All right, so right now, on today's show, we are discussing the wisdom of equity, right? And before the break, we were discussing what's going on right now with Colin Kaepernick. Basically, he sparked some controversy by trying to speak out against inequality, against injustice, right? So he was trying to be equitable, right? He was, doing what we're talking about right now. And because of that, he got some backlash. He teamed up with Nike, who is endorsing him right now, or he is endorsing Nike, I should say. And there's a lot of people that don't like that. They're beginning to, burn Nike, clothes and shoes and all of this in protest. But it's really not, I don't know. I depending on, how you feel about that, I guess will determine, whether or not you think it's right on either side. But ultimately, if somebody is doing something because they believe it is the right thing to do, then I think it's something that we should applaud them for, not persecute them for. However, if you look throughout history, people have always been persecuted for doing, standing up for what they believe to be right. That's nothing new. That's something that has happened since the beginning of time. So anyway, that is what's going on with Colin Kaepernick. Here's another article that I think is pretty interesting. Now, this speaks about equality as far as not treating everyone equal, but saying it in a positive sense. So let's take a look at this and see what they have to say. It's actually from a mother, right? And her article is called Ideas About Parenting Change Once You Become a Parent. Okay, so one thing she talks about here, she says that it's amazing how your ideas about parenting change once you become a parent. Before kids, if it took me 10 minutes to get somewhere, I would leave 10 minutes early. Now, both girls need to be fed and dressed. Both girls need their backpacks and water bottles. Once we are finally ready to head out, someone needs to go to the bathroom. Then the other one needs to go to the bathroom. And they still are being potty trained. So I then have to put them in dry diapers, right? So it looks like they don't always make it to the bathroom. But she's, basically just talking about the life of a parent. She's talking about how, when you do become a parent, you have to make a lot of sacrifices. You have to make a lot of adjustments in your life. But not only that, you also have to think about how you treat each of them, because each of your children are going to have different needs, right? So the way that you treat them may not always be exactly the same. So for example, she said, I never thought I would be the kind of parent who would allow shoes to be negotiable or ketchup with every meal. I never thought I would be the parent who drove around Midland for an hour just to keep the kids napping. I never thought I would purchase grab-and-go lunches or allow the use of electronics during meals. I never thought I would be the kind of parent who would take her kids out with messy faces or hair, or resort to bribing to let me trim their nails. However, the realities of sleepless nights and crying kiddos have put a kink in my parenting plans. And that's funny, you know, especially if you have kids. You know, I think that this is, you know, something that, you know, anyone can relate to, because that is how it is, right? You know, there are a lot of adjustments that you have to make, and sometimes as a parent you have to know when to bend a little bit, right? Because your kids are not, they're not exactly like you. They're not your clones, you know. They're not going to do everything the way that you would do it, right? So she goes to say this to basically to sum up what she's talking about. She asks these questions: are you safe? Are you healthy? Because, you know, for her, that's what's most important. And because she says, like, if you are, then that's a win. So nothing else matters that much, you know, in the grand scheme of things. So she goes on to say, every child is different and everyone's needs are unique. I still believe certain strategies work better than others and will be more useful long term, but I now know there's not a one size fits all when it comes to parenting. I have realized the true difference between treating someone equally and treating someone fairly. Now, I think that that's an interesting way to put it, right? So we're talking about equity. We're talking about equality, which is very important. But what she's saying in this context, it's not like, oh, treating everyone equally, meaning all 10 people, I'm going to give all 10 people vanilla ice cream, right? You might think that that's being fair, but it's not if only one of those people likes vanilla ice cream. What if someone else likes chocolate ice cream? What if someone else likes strawberry ice cream? What if someone else likes Rocky Road or butter pecan or cookies and cream, which is my personal favorite there. But, you know, people have different preferences, right? So you can't just say, well, if it works for one, it works for all. That's not what equality is about. Equality is about, you know, giving the best, or at least allowing for the best quality of life for everyone, so that each person feels like they're receiving the best. Because if I don't like chocolate ice cream and you give me 10 tons of chocolate ice cream, I mean, I'm not going to be excited about that. I'm going to feel like you're actually treating me unjustly. It's going to feel like a punishment, because that's not something that I like. But if it was my favorite ice cream, I mean, you would be my hero, right? You know, I would be your number one fan. So basically, we have to just keep in mind that being equal is only half the battle, right? The main thing is, and this is what equity is really all about. That's why the definition of equity is not just equal, it's fairness, right? It is being fair across the board. It's, you know, making sure that everyone is treated right. They're treated justly. They're not being wronged. You know, you're not giving preferential treatment to one person over the other, but everyone, you know, is getting something that benefits them. But more on that after this. That's the end of hour one. You're listening to North Coast Underground, where the underground starts with you. Let's get into some music.